the wild area, then you will really appreciate the Olive Armor. If you didn't enjoy base sword and shield, then there's nothing really for you added here that would sway you in any significant way. Did you get the expansion? If so, what was your favorite part? Make sure to leave your thoughts down below. Thanks for watching, you guys. Disclaimer notice. All criticism brought to attention in this video are subject to change. And yes, I will be criticizing both the demo material and promotional material, because that is literally the point of having demos and trailers, to generate criticism. They're an opportunity for developers to showcase what they've accomplished thus far with the intent of piquing the interest of consumers. At the same time, it's a great opportunity for people to look at what they see and to voice criticisms or concerns of any outstanding issues. So for those of you who love the "it's just a demo" excuse, I implore you to reconsider your words so as not to be invaded. I've said this before and I will say it again. Criticism is a powerful tool that isolates flaws within a product, in the hopes that awareness can be raised in order for the developers to rectify the problem. With that being said, let's get to it. Pokemon Sword and Shield will not have a national day, which means that hunters of Pokemon will be excluded from the game. Masuda revealed this information at E3 during the Nintendo Treehouse Live presentation.
What that means for Pokemon Sword and Shield is that players will be able to transfer their Pokemon from Pokemon Home only if they appear in the Galar region Pokedex.
This sparked an unprecedented level of backlash and outrage never before seen in the Pokemon community, and has the video of the announcement well on its way to being the most disliked Nintendo video of all time, second only to the Metroid Prime Federation Force trailer from over 4 years ago. The announcement also gave birth to a protest called #BringBackNationalDay, or BBND for short. Thousands of people for the past few months have expressed their distaste regarding the decision to exclude Pokemon. While the BBND movement has great intentions, there are some issues I feel that are overlooked by both the BBND movement and those who oppose it. The obvious one is that every single Pokemon is someone's favorite to varying degrees. This means that it's quite literally impossible for Sword and Shield to not disappoint someone due to the fact that millions of people will be playing a Pokemon game without their favorite Pokemon. The intentional exclusion of Pokemon has serious negative implications when it comes to the post-game of Sword and Shield. Completionists and Living Deaths enthusiasts will have significantly less content to work with. A large draw of Pokemon is to collect every single one, which is impossible to achieve in Sword and Shield. Any and all post-game battle facilities will be subjected to a smaller pool of Pokemon. This means that you will run into the same Pokemon more frequently, and the types of strategies you will encounter will also be fewer. The same limitations apply to your own team building as well, since the player is also subjected to the same decreased pool, meaning your strategies and different ways to play are limited. This effect carries over into online and competitive play. The variety of teams and the amount of different strategies and possibilities will be greatly diminished. Team building is limited and the level of creativity is stunted due to the smaller pool of available Pokemon. Pokemon Showdown, an online Pokemon battle simulator, vows to uphold the integrity of Pokemon battles by preserving the ability to use all Pokemon, even those excluded from Sword and Shield. With all that being said, why are the Pokemon being removed in the first place?
But with the transition to the Nintendo Switch hardware, with its, it being much more powerful, allowing us to be much more expressive with each of the individual Pokemon. And at Game Freak, we really spent a lot of time thinking about what the best way to move forward was, really preserving the quality of all the different Pokemon.
Pokemon aren't being removed because there's too many of them. They're being removed because it's difficult, if not impossible, to properly embellish all Pokemon by making them more expressive and lively. Pokemon are being removed in order to flesh out and properly develop the remaining Pokemon. I agree with this decision, and understand the sentiment behind the unsustainability of an ever-increasing pool of Pokemon. Masuda's statement, however, is a farce, because all old Pokemon reuse their 3DS animations. You cannot increase inherent expression by reusing old animations. It also doesn't help that many of the 3DS animations are of poor quality to begin with. Some Pokemon aren't even animated at all during certain attacks. Game Freak simply displaces the Pokemon model, which means the Pokemon itself isn't animated. Physical attacks still don't make physical contact, something achieved by a cell phone game and a Wii game from over 13 years ago. Pokemon models are not properly scaled when in battle, which is disappointing beyond words, since one of the main benefits and reasons to make Pokemon 3D was to see them in all of their glory. This magic is lost in Sword and Shield. The strangest part is that Game Freak properly scaled battle models in Pokemon Let's Go. Here is an edit with more appropriate scaling. Now let's compare this to what we're actually getting. Ugh. it somehow looked even worse. Again, it's disappointing beyond words and unfathomable how a game can have a mechanic called Dynamax and can have properly scaled overworld Pokemon, yet for no logical reason, the battle models are not appropriately scaled. You would think that having a smaller pool of Pokemon, with all of the old ones reusing both models and animations from past games, would show a substantial increase in quality with regards to the Pokemon and the game as a whole. This is not the case. From what we've seen so far, there is no discernible, justifiable reason why all Pokemon couldn't be in the game. All of the old Pokemon are already finished and would just need slight adjustments, which all Kanto Pokemon already have thanks to Let's Go. Again, I agree with the decision to decrease the number of Pokemon in favor of using that saved time to improve the game overall. The ends doesn't justify the means as the improvements are few and far between. Dynamax as a concept and mechanic is uninteresting overall, while a very slight step up from Z-moves. It pales in comparison to Mega Evolution in almost every single way, neither of which are returning in Sword and Shield. There's glaring model loading issues. Hundreds of move animations were removed and replaced with generic splash effects. Dynamax Pokemon moves are also replaced with only 18 attacks, albeit more flashy than the splash effects. All 240 plus status moves are replaced with max guard while Pokemon is Dynamax. At least Z status moves gave unique effects instead of homogenizing all of them into a single attack. For some reason, the trainers are situated in between the Dynamax Pokemon, which looks awful. The whole reason trainers hang back behind the Pokemon is to avoid being attacked. But now they stand in between two Godzilla-sized Pokemon, and the end result is embarrassing and absurd. Some max moves aren't anchored properly. This is clearly evidenced when Max Flare is used. Instead of anchoring the attack to the most appropriate point during a Pokemon's animation, Game Freak chose to instead set the attack to a fixed location, which conveniently results in less time and effort spent at the cost of looking cheap and rushed. When Dynamax ends, there's this transition scene where the Pokemon shrinks and the trainer is watching them shrink. Then it cuts to the Pokemon back in front of the trainer and the trainer is turned around. It would have been a nice touch to at least have the Pokemon run back into the battlefield to make everything feel more fluent and coherent instead of choppy and disjointed. All old Pokemon have unused running animations already finished since Sun and Moon, and the new Pokemon are animated as well, but Game Freak decided to cut yet another corner instead. At least Dynamax is restricted to certain locations. I will be going out of my way to avoid using it at all costs. Now before I get into the wild area, I want to address some miscellaneous issues. Characters appear to still be on grids, which gives them clunky robotic-like movements that look extremely dated. Team Yell is the least ambitious team yet. Their designs are among the worst of all the teams and are extremely ugly. Game Freak still uses only two models, one for males and one for females respectively. This is another example of Game Freak's archaic conventions and is further evidence of their lack of evolution as a developer. They could have at least used 3 or 4 different models per sex, or better yet, use masks. Masks are great at hiding the face so you can use the same model while allowing the player's imaginations to do the rest. It's impossible for one to suspend the disbelief enough to where we can accept that all grunts of Team Yell look identical. It looks silly. Even the anime attempts to rectify this oversight for Team Star. Double battles appear to be very clustered. Opposing Pokemon are practically holding hands, that's how close they are. This issue can be attributed to Dynamax. Even in this giant stadium, Pokemon and trainers are extremely close together. This is to accommodate the massive Dynamax Pokemon, but so much space is wasted to do so, and everything ends up looking cramped when this was never an issue in any other Pokemon game to date. Dynamax was a mistake. It looks like Sword and Shield will suffer from corridor syndrome. That's where many of the routes and areas are just straight lines, nothing more than a glorified polygon. Sun and Moon also suffered from this greatly. Game Freak intentionally restricts the player's movements by blocking them with invisible walls. You see that route over there in the distance? You can't go there because Game Freak prevents you from doing so. The distortion world in Pokemon Platinum felt like an actual world. Ultra Megapolis in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, by comparison, is literally just an Ultra Hollow. Many routes in the earlier games promoted exploration and felt large in size, mainly thanks in part to not being restricted corridors. The box art is uninspired and uninteresting. Pokemon box arts have never really been exceptional, but that's not an excuse of why there shouldn't be. The box art for Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon was actually really interesting, and it had an Easter egg. If you combine the art with the reveal alternate cosmos, which is a subtle detail, but a nice touch. Even Let's Go Pikachu Eevee had more life in their box art compared to Sword and Shield. The logo for Sword is off-center. While not a huge issue, the human eye is great at catching inconsistencies. And while you may not think about it, subconsciously, an impression of unprofessionalism and amateurishness is made. Here are examples of box arts that could have been. The wild area, while a fantastic idea and concept, has been poorly implemented. Game Freak should have started with the wild area, then built around it, but instead they did the exact opposite. The wild area seems to be like a last-minute addition, evidenced by the fact that it's the only part of the game with controllable camera, among other things. The wild area looks unpolished and rushed. It has some of the worst pictures I have ever seen for a AAA game, and yes, this includes the infamous trees. The trees can seriously be compared to a game from the N64 that came out over 20 years ago. The Switch is around 1,000 times stronger than the N64, yet I don't get that impression when comparing the two. If I were to show this image to someone and tell them it's a part of a new game for the highest grossing franchise on the planet, worth about 90 billion, they would laugh or be in disbelief, because it's truly laughable and unbelievable. The bike uniform is extremely ugly, and it overrides your character's customizable clothing and forces you to wear it. No single other Pokemon game forces you to wear a clown suit when riding a bike. Sun and Moon had a similar look-and-looking outfit, but at least you were riding a Pokemon, so it somewhat made sense, although I also hated it in that game as well. This is the same game where you stand in between two Goliath-sized threats, yet when riding a bike, you need to wear a helmet. Really? Why? The character models can't fall on the ground. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a diaper under that clown suit. I really can't put into words how mundane and ludicrous it is, and how it tarnishes the exploration aspect of the game, because whenever you want to go fast, or surf, you have to equip the clown suit against your will, turning you from a Chad trainer into a turbo virgin. The water in the wild area also shows signs of being rushed. When Manchu jumps out of the water, the splash effect comes out of the air instead of the water. This was part of a promotional trailer to build interest in consumers. Instead, they further exposed the lack of effort, time, and attention to detail in the wild area. When Lapras is surfing in the water, there's no ripple effects. Every single other Game Freak game has accomplished this simple yet essential detail to help convince players that they were swimming in water. The game's draw distance is abysmal. It renders models very close to the player, which is distracting and jarring. The draw distance for the Dragon Quest XI demo on the Switch is significantly low. And the same goes for Breath of the Wild. Speaking of draw distance, wild Pokemon pop out of the ground. This looks awful and immediately shatters any and all immersion invested in the world. One could argue having the Pokemon just magically appear out of thin air in front of you due to this terrible draw distance would be more preferable than having all Pokemon blasted from the ground. I could understand Pokemon like Diglett or Dugtrio, and to an extent other ground types like Diggersby, but like Haunter comes out of the ground. Machoke? Galvantula? The only technical reason I could think of why Game Freak has wild Pokemon appear out of the ground instead of magically appearing when in render distance is because the Pokemon, unlike the human NPCs, actually move. This can cause strange render behavior. Here's an example with Butterfree, who surprisingly doesn't pop out of the ground. Butterfree flickers in and out of existence. I'm assuming all Pokemon exhibit this behavior due to moving in and out of draw distance range. So instead of fixing the problem, Game Freak decided to shove all of the models under the ground. When the player gets close enough, a dirt effect plays while the Pokemon model is ejected to the surface. Does it look horrible? Yes. Could there have been a more graceful and sensible solution? Most definitely. But this is what the team of professionals over at Game Freak came up with. The overworld Pokemon aimlessly walk around the wild area, and that's all they do, at least from what we've seen so far. They don't interact with each other, they don't play, or sleep, or do anything. They just walk. Game Freak even fails to deliver organic walking Pokemon in the overworld. A great example of this is Wingull, who levitates 2 feet off of the ground with his wings completely static. This just exacerbates the overall cheap and rushed nature of the wild area as a whole. Game Freak has already properly implemented Wingull in the overworld in the past, in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. You can see some Wingull standing on the ground with their wings folded, and if you approach them, they flap their wings to flee. I repeat, they flap their wings. Some people unironically use Wingull's Pokedex entry as an excuse for why Game Freak put no effort into Wingull for Sword and Shield. Mekargo's Pokedex entry states its body temperature is 18,000 degrees Fahrenheit, or 9,982 degrees Celsius. That's around 10 times hotter than actual lava on planet Earth. It states water is immediately vaporized upon contact, yet that didn't stop this little girl from running up and giving Mekargo a big ol' hug. The point being that Pokedex entries literally do nothing and are a pathetic excuse to justify the mistreatment treatment of Wingull in Sword and Shield. Game Freak didn't look at Wingull's Pokédex entry in an attempt to faithfully represent it based on that and that alone. It simply ripped its walking animation from Sun and Moon and didn't feel it necessary to create new, more expressive animations, which was, funnily enough, the exact reason for the removal of the National Dex in the first place. Game Freak did Wingull dirty. It's as simple as that. Even a first-year animation student gave Wingull more attention, love, and respect as a character in a mere 24 hours than a team of professionals did in over 3 years. The whole point of reducing the Pokemon pool was to make quality of life changes to the remaining Pokemon still in the game. Here is a more appropriate approach for Wingull that Game Freak should have taken. It could have had wild Wingull on the ground, just like in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. They could give Wingull a new walking animation where it hops, like other small birds. They could have utilized their new sneak mechanic to allow the player to sneak up on the Wingull. If they messed up, then the Wingull would flap their wings to escape. If the player succeeded, then a battle would ensue. Just that small addition would make the world feel more alive and more fun. Instead, we get a drone masquerading as a Wingull with the ability to hover and pivot at wind. There's a noticeable amount of lag whenever a wild battle is initiated.
Yeah, that's great. ロックシステムの話をしたいと思うんですけど、今ちょっと口笛をして、いろんな反応をして。
That's everything Sword and Shield has drawn so far. I may have missed some things, and I guarantee this list will continue to grow as more info about the games are revealed. With that being said, just because Sword and Shield seemingly have a large number of flaws, that doesn't necessarily mean that they would be bad games. I'm not mad at Game Freak, and I don't hate Sword and Shield. I'm just disappointed with both. My personal vendetta with Sword and Shield is the squandering of its potential. Sword and Shield is kind of like Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe isn't a bad game, it's just okay, but it's certainly no Mario Odyssey. As a Pokemon fan, I feel and believe that Pokemon deserves the quality and respect necessary for Sword and Shield to reach the industry standard established by its peers. I just want the games to be the best that they can be. Sword and Shield had the potential and the means to be at the same level of quality as Odyssey and other great games currently on the Switch. They just aren't there yet. There's always Gen 9. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I made a tweet that, for some reason, found an audience with a large amount of people outside of the Pokemon community, and it really showed. The amount of people blatantly flaunting their ignorance is astounding. Hundreds of thousands of people saw my tweet, and thanks in part of their bias, immediately assumed that what they were seeing was something negative, despite the fact that I included a link in that very tweet stating the exact opposite of their ill-informed assumption. Even if they didn't click on the link, they could have at least explored the thread itself to figure out the context behind the purpose of the tweet. So people didn't do any of that. They would just retweet while dropping some snide, snarky, ignorant remark for internet fans, not considering or confirming the actual intentions behind the tweet. The only reason I made the tweet in the first place is because people, like Joe's girlfriend, stated that the reusal of animations was an assumption and that we should apologize to Game Freak while simultaneously showcasing reused animations. Other people, like Manga Kingman, just outright denied any and all possibilities of animations being reused from Refresh, while also, ironically, simultaneously showcasing reused animations. Neither Joe's girlfriend nor Manga Kingman bothered to grab a 3DS with one of 8 different Pokemon game cartridges to confirm that what they were saying was the case. Clearly, neither ever touched a Mii or Refresh these past 6 years, otherwise they would have known the truth from the get-go. This was blatant misinformation that needed quelling. I made a simple tweet. I stated a single cap that my focus is on the quality of the animations, not the reuse of the animations. I reply, that has absolutely nothing to do with the animations featured in my tweet. Your point? Toadette responds, well, you obviously have a problem reusing animations and models from previous games. Right away, the ignorance is overwhelming. They clearly didn't watch a single video in their own screen cap. Otherwise, they would have realized my model videos explicitly advocate the reuse of the models because it would be a disgusting waste of time to make identical, high-quality models from scratch. All of my animation videos highlighted in Toadette's screen cap have to do with animation quality, not the reuse of animations. I said, no I don't. The issue isn't with the reuse, it's with the inherent quality of the reused assets. I then highlight the fact that they've never even seen my animation related videos, followed by, I have never ever said reusing models is a problem. I've said the exact opposite many times. So, I just fully informed Toadette. My contention with Sword and Shield animations is with their quality, not their reuse, which Toadette wrongfully assumed. Does Toadette acknowledge their bias fueled by ignorance? And then we go our separate ways? Nope. They double down and reaffirm their deluded proposition that I have contentions with reuse in Sword and Shield, despite myself highlighting the distinction between quality and reuse. If all of Game Freak's 3DS Pokemon animations were as good as they should be, I would have absolutely no qualms with the quality of the animations being reused. Take Stadium for instance. The animations on the N64 were so good that they were reused in PBR, a game on a console 2 generations later, 8 years apart. The Stadium animations from '98 are so good that many of them are better than animations found in Sword and Shield, a whopping 20+ year disparity. 4 console generations apart. Not all animations are equal. Some animations are good, some animations are bad. Some animations are timeless and do not age. Other animations do age. These concepts are intrinsic to the inherent quality of the animations. Reusing good animations is obviously fine, as so graciously stated by the many armchair game devs. The reuse of bad animations without invigoration, however, is obviously not okay, and should be frowned upon by everyone. Back to Toadette. They first accused me of thinking the reuse of all assets was a bad thing. When I informed them that they were wrong about their misinformed assumptions of me, they doubled down. They still believe I have a problem with the concept of reuse, which is untrue. Game Freak can reuse all of the animations. I would just prefer they tweak the low quality animations accordingly. I reiterate the distinction between quality and reuse when Toadette, after a light bulb finally goes off, claims they never said that I had a problem with the reuse of assets, which is just rich. Instead of admitting to their mistake, they backpedal and then attempt to alter their stance with wordplay that is still incorrect because I have no qualms with the reuse, just with the quality. I highlighted this interaction because even when I spoon-fed Toadette, even when I held their hand and walked them through it step by step, it didn't matter. Their negative bias, now alleviated of ignorance, still took precedence over objective reality. I have another example to highlight negative bias taking precedence in the face of fact. This person, named Pod, like many others, had to chime in with their sarcastic, uninformed remarks, ultimately stating the reuse of animations wasn't a big deal. Pod is correct, it's not a big deal, nor did I say it was, which is what I respond with. An old school Call of Duty YouTuber named Pbat, whom I watched a lot back in the day, responded to me to my surprise. He said, "My boy, you went out of your way to compare animations, slow it down frame by frame, and make a whole thread about it. You clearly think it's a big deal." First, he's imposing his negativity bias generated opinion of me onto me by contradicting my statement. Due to his ignorance of the situation as a whole, he's attributing 2 misconceptions about the tweet to justify his bias. The first is that I made the tweet in the first place. He has no knowledge of the reason for the existence of the tweet and just assumes it's something negative. Second is that my video is meticulous. Once again, he doesn't know why this is and just assumes it's something negative. He attributes these 2 points to claim that the reuse of animations is a problem for me, even though I explicitly stated it wasn't. With this in mind, I did my best to inform him. I addressed his first misconception, because people were spreading misinformation. The only way to quell misinformation is to provide real information. I made this point extra clear by posting a screen cap of the misinformation I was alluding to. Next, I tackled his second misconception, which was the thoroughness of my video. If I wasn't frame by frame, then the armchair frame analysis technicians would accuse me of misguiding people. I also included a screen cap of this to make this abundantly clear. That's right, the elite apologists that I refer to as the self-proclaimed professional frame analysis technicians would comb through my video frame by frame. In my haste to quell misinfo, it turns out some of my comparisons were 3 frames off. To the human eye, this literally makes no difference and is undetectable, hence you can tell the animations are identical regardless. However, for the elite apologists, in their desperation to discredit me at all costs, took it upon themselves to screen cap discrepancies. They failed to acknowledge, however, that there wasn't discrepancies because the animation was different, but because one animation started before another. They could clearly tell this was the case going frame by frame, yet they still deliberately made several posts in the attempt to discredit me. Keep in mind that at the same time, there were hundreds of people ragging on me, confirming that the animations are in fact reused. I literally had to go back into the shop and make a frame by frame perfect comparison to satisfy the elite apologists. Even then proclaiming that you prove that they look identical, not that they are identical. You can make of that what you will. Back to PBAT. I've now satisfied his 2 ignorant misconceptions with the truth. I closed off with, my hand was forced. Keep in mind that this is a figure of speech which was further implied by my giant LOL at the end of the statement. The statement itself is an implication of being called to act, influenced by others. With all that being said, what does PBAT say? He initially stated the reuse of animations was a big deal to me because A, the tweet exists, and B, the video is meticulous. A, he now knows exactly why the tweet exists, and B, why the video is so detailed. Any reasonable, non-biased individual would acknowledge jumping to an ill-informed conclusion and then be on their way. This is how he responded. No, your hand wasn't forced. It's a game. You can choose to buy or not. It's not that deep. Nobody forced you. Stop over-exaggerating. LMAO. Not only did he misconstrue my figure of speech and treat it as a literal throughout his entire comment, he completely disregarded everything that I wrote and literally told me not to buy the game if I'm going to complain, which I wasn't, hence the negative connotations. His response from being enlightened was one of the most basic apologist rebuttals. A truly remarkable response. In the face of objective reality, he instead chose to impose his negative assumption of my opinion over my actual opinion. This is confirmed when he states that in his opinion, the reuse of the animations is fine, while stating that we have differing opinions on the matter, when in reality, we share the exact same opinion. I'm in the wrong for alleviating his ignorance. Also, in that same sentence, he condoned and supported the dissemination of misinformation, and justified it because it's a game that he doesn't care about. This means that even if I was more transparent in my original tweet, even if I included screen caps of Joe's girlfriend and Cayman as motivations of the tweet, even if I said it wasn't a bad thing, it wouldn't have mattered. Each individual's own subjective interpretation, misguided by their inherent bias, would still assume the tweet was negative in some way. Most, I guarantee you, would actually accuse me of lying. I have an example of this as well. Mr. Smasher asked, what's so bad about reusing animations? I respond, truthfully, depends on the animation. Some age, some don't. The AMD animations are fine. So, my initial tweet is neutral, and now I have explicitly stated that the AMD animations are fine and the reusal is not an issue. Mr. Smasher, being the sensible and rational individual that he is, just said okay and went about his business. Others, consumed by their negativity, still found an issue with my neutral and positive tweet combination. I don't care they reused animations because they're good, but I'm going to piss and moan about it anyway. This person even acknowledges that I have zero issues, but they use that fact to mock me while accusing me of still complaining. Their statement is a contradiction. You wouldn't piss and moan about something you have no issues with, which they're implying that I'm lying, despite being truthful. That is the level of desperation people go to in order to enact their negative fabrication of reality. There's an additional layer of complexity with regards to the contention surrounding reused animations concerning Sword and Shield specifically. The contention is that Game Freak is removing Pokemon to increase expression of the remaining Pokemon. Herein lies the issue. You cannot increase inherent expression of the old Pokemon by reusing their old animations. This is especially true with regards to many of the reused, poor quality battle animations. Now for me, personally, there is nothing wrong with reusing the AMD animations. Absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. Most people haven't even seen a fraction of the animations used in the optional pet simulator, and I don't blame them. I myself have maybe seen 5% of all the incredible animations. It's unfortunate that Game Freak put in thousands of hours to make these high quality animations, only for them to go mostly unnoticed by the majority of people due to being in an optional sideline gimmick. There's just not that much to do. Camp, Game Freak's third attempt at getting people to care about this mechanic, seeks to rectify the shortcomings of EMU and Refresh in the past by adding more functionality and weight to the mode. The most bizarre thing is that Game Freak clearly put in a lot of effort for the EMU styled mechanic, but when it comes to Pokemon battles, you know, that mandatory element that is one of the main aspects of the game, the animations are lacking. It's backwards. I made a poll in my last video that asked the question of what people preferred between Pokemon battling and Pokemon camping. Thank you, by the way, to everyone who took the time to comment and vote. Based on this poll, about 85% of people prefer battles over camping. That's 8.5 people out of every 10 that prefer battling. Yet Game Freak focused an enormous amount of time and resources to cater to just 1.5 people out of every 10. Maybe Game Freak will get it right this time and will finally be able to show the world the effort they put into that went largely unnoticed for over half a decade. With that being said, thanks for watching, you guys.